3 years after Liam and I broke up, we ran into each other on a blind date. He was in a tailored suit, his expression cold, a far cry from the ripped jeans rock kid I used to know. I quietly breathed a sigh of relief until, out of nowhere, I heard his inner voice. Her eyelashes are still trembling, just like when I kissed her until she cried. That dress isn't as good as the floral camisole I got her. If I grabbed her wrist right now, would she still bite me? 3 years after Liam and I broke up, we ran into each other on a blind date. The place was that French restaurant in town, the kind so expensive it could take half your life savings, with lighting so dim it felt like an underground deal going down. The matchmaker was my mom's old best friend, Anne Margaret. She'd patted her chest and sworn the guy was young, talented, and of impeccable character, that if I let this one slip, there'd be no second chance. I couldn't fight my mom's full-blown meltdown routine, crying, screaming, threatening to hang herself. I figured I'd just show up, go through the motions, and calm the old lady's restless heart. But holy hell, the young, talented catch sitting in that booth was none other than Liam Carter. He wore a perfectly fitted dark gray suit, his hair combed back without a strand out of place, revealing a smooth forehead. A sliver of silver watch peeked from his cuff, and his clean, long fingers rested on the white tablecloth. The whole package screamed, "Do not disturb elite." Nothing like the guy in my memory, the ripped jeans rocker with that cheeky, wild grin. I froze mid-step by the table, my mind going blank with a buzzing whoosh. The scent of the scented candles floating in the air suddenly made my stomach turn. Liam looked up, his gaze was calm, unreadable, distant. He gave a slight nod by way of greeting, not even twitching the corner of his mouth. In that instant, the chaos churning in my chest strangely settled. If he could pretend we were strangers, couldn't I? I pasted on a standard social smile, pulled out the chair across from him, and sat down. "Sorry to keep you waiting." My voice was so steady I impressed myself. "Just got here." He was brief, pushing the menu toward me. "Take a look." His tone was as flat as if he were negotiating a contract with a client. I exhaled quietly. Good, decent people doing the decent thing. Finish this meal, and we'd never see each other again. 2. I stared down at the menu, pretending to study it. The fancy French script made my eyes swim, but I wasn't reading a single word. My head was full of messy fragments of the past. The way H grinned at me with a guitar slung over his back, the red veins in his eyes from staying up all night writing songs, and that final, earth-shattering fight where we'd both said things we couldn't take back. He cleared his throat softly. I looked up on instinct and caught his eye. He was watching me, the dim restaurant light casting an unreadable glint in his deep eyes. Then he quickly looked away, toward the menu in my hand, and said evenly, "For starters, foie gras or escargot. Want to try either?" "Oh, sure, escargot," I answered randomly. This guy was so put together now it was exhausting. But just as I was about to bury my head back in the menu to escape reality, a voice without warning sounded directly inside my head. "Her eyelashes are still trembling, just like when I kissed her until she cried." Me. My whole body went rigid, my fingers tightened around the menu, the paper giving a soft crinkle. I snapped my head up and stared hard at Liam. He was lifting his water glass, taking a slow, deliberate sip. His Adam's apple moved. The line of his jaw looked sharp and cold in the dim light. His face was blank. His eyes weren't even on me anymore, they were on the flickering candle at the next table. What the hell, was I hallucinating? Before I could figure it out, the voice came again, laced with a barely perceptible, irritable pickiness. "That dress isn't as good as the floral camisole I got her." I was wearing a perfectly respectable dusty pink satin dress, knee-length, small round neckline, 3/4 sleeves. Demure enough for an industry summit. The floral camisole Liam was talking about. H bought it for $30 at a street stall the summer we first got together. Cheap chiffon, gaudy print. I'd been too embarrassed to wear it out, only slipped it on twice at home as pajamas. H mopped for days, muttering that I didn't get his aesthetic. Where was this even coming from? Cold sweat broke out on my back, a weird tingling crawling up my spine. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. I was just a nervous that had to be it. 3. I took deep breaths, trying to calm down, and reached for the wine glass in front of me, just a sip to steady my nerves. The rim had barely touched my lips when the voice came a third time. This time it was clearer, almost gritted teeth fierce, with a hint of something familiar and long missing that I forced myself to ignore. A teasing intimacy. If I grabbed her wrist right now, would she still bite me? Pff, cough, cough, cough. The wine went straight down my windpipe. I coughed so hard my eyes watered instantly. My lungs burning, the glass nearly flew out of my hand. I fumbled it back onto the table with a loud clink, drawing stares from the tables around us. So embarrassing. A crisp white napkin appeared in front of me, held by a hand with prominent knuckles. I covered my mouth and lifted my red, coughing eyes. Liam had somehow stood up and leaned slightly toward me, his brows furrowed. The cold mask had finally cracked, revealing clear disapproval beneath, and maybe, if I wasn't imagining it, a flash of panic. 3 years apart, he said, his voice deeper than before, deliberately steady. And your acting's gotten better. The sarcasm in his tone was as familiar as ever. I took the napkin and clumsily wiped my mouth and the tears from coughing. My heart was hammering in my chest. Not a hallucination, definitely not. That voice, it was unmistakably Liam's, but his mouth hadn't moved at all, so I could really hear Liam's inner thoughts. 4. Liam had sat back down, the cold mask back in place, as if that moment of concern when H handed me the napkin had been my imagination. He signaled the waiter to clean the tablecloth had messed up and had them bring me a fresh glass of water. Smooth, flawless, but I knew the barrage of thoughts in his head was probably crashing his screen. The rest of the meal was pure torture. I had to keep up a calm exterior, mechanically cutting my steak, while passively absorbing a flood of information from the inner world of the ice-cold elite across from me. The thoughts were chaotic, sometimes irritable, sometimes critical, sometimes surfacing hyper-specific memory fragments that made my scalp tingle. Like when the waiter came over to ask if everything was to our liking, Liam nodded slightly and said politely, "It's good," but inside he was roaring, "The sauce is too rich, the beef's overcooked by at least 30 seconds, the mashed potatoes aren't smooth enough, they definitely didn't strain them, and they dare charge this price. Did the Michelin critics collectively lose their taste buds?" I silently glanced at my own plate, steak cut into ragged pieces, and yeah, kind of tough. Or when I tried to break the silence with a safe topic, I asked something harmless. "Heard you started your own company now. That's impressive." Liam looked up and answered formulaically, "Small stuff, just making a living," but his inner monologue was so formal, so polite. She really is treating this like a blind date with a stranger. I shut up immediately and took a big gulp of water. The thick, unmistakable hurt and resentment in his tone made my jaw ache a little. The worst part was the flashbacks to the past. When I looked down to cut my steak, think, her hair's gotten longer. The ends are split. Still hates going to the salon. I used to trim it for her, said the stylist charged too much and were terrible. When I tucked a fallen strand behind my ear, her wrist looks thinner, definitely not eating properly again, even when distracted. I flicked a cherry tomato out of my salad and it rolled across the table. He calmly picked it up with a napkin and set it beside his own plate, as naturally as if he were handling a dropped button. But what he thought was, Chi-Chi, still clumsy as ever, used to shake scallions off her chopsticks onto the table when she ate my noodles, and had the nerve to say the scallions had a mind of their own. By the end of the meal I was exhausted and dyspeptic. I felt like an illegal wiretap, forced to listen to a wildly contradictory emotional radio show while the host himself was, on the surface, an unflappable iceberg of emotional stability. It was too weird and too agonizing. 5. Finally dessert arrived, a beautifully plated cake. I took a small spoonful. The cloying sweetness melted on my tongue but did nothing to quiet the tangled emotions churning in my chest. Liam didn't touch his. Only ordered a black coffee. He took a sip, his gaze seemingly drifting over my cake before moving away. Then the voice slipped into my head again. This time it wasn't a complaint or a memory, it was low, suppressed, almost suffocating. "She loves sweet things, used to steal my ice cream. The last bite was always hers. Whatever, none of my business." That last line was soft, like a sigh. My fingers around the silver dessert spoon tightened slightly. Just then, Liam's phone screen lit up on the table. He glanced at it and pressed it off, fast as it was. I caught a glimpse of the caller. It looked like an English name, something like Lily or Lucy. The font was tiny, hard to make out. His expression didn't change. He kept drinking his coffee, but that damn inner voice came again, businesslike and cold, with a flicker of irritation. "Lucy's nagging about the merger again. Can't even leave me alone on the weekend. Fine by me. The sooner this meal ends, the better." The tiny ripple that his sigh had stirred in my chest snapped flat. Oh, Lucy, a woman's name, texting on the weekend. A nameless irritation welled up. I set down my spoon, wiped my mouth, and looked at him. forcing my smile to be natural and distant. It's getting late. Thank you for dinner. I'm finished. Liam looked up, his gaze calm. It'll drive you. No need. I refused almost instantly, my words coming a little too fast. I drove, and we're not really going the same way anyway. He looked at me in silence, in the dim restaurant light. His eyes were black and bottomless. For a few seconds neither of us spoke, only the faint, almost imperceptible piano music drifted in the background. He didn't push, just nodded. Okay. He called the waiter for the bill, pulled out his card holder, crisp and efficient. I made a token gesture. We can split it. He didn't even look up. No need. What he thought was, since when do you pay when you're eating with me? Me. Fine, Mr. Generous. 6. Outside the restaurant, the evening wind hit and I shivered. Early autumn nights already had a chill. This dress really wasn't warm enough. Liam walked half a step behind me. I could feel his gaze on my back so heavy it made the hairs on my neck stand up. Sure enough, the inner voice arrived, fashionably late, dressed so light, deserves to catch a cold. Used to be me reminding her to layer up. Guess nobody does that now. I took a deep breath and quickened my pace, desperate to reach my car and end this nightmare. My car was a little white hatchback, parked in a street spot across from the restaurant. I got to it, pulled out my keys, unlocked the door, and was about to dive in as fast as I could. Emma. He called my name suddenly. I froze, hand on the door, and turned back. He stood a few paces away on the sidewalk. The streetlight was behind him, backlighting his face so I couldn't read his expression. Neon light from the storefront slid across the sharp line of his shoulders. Something else? I asked, keeping my tone flat. He was quiet for 2 seconds before he spoke. The wind scattered his voice a little, but every word came through clearly. Don't read too much into tonight. The family's been on my case. I was just going through the motions. I tugged at the corner of my mouth. Funny. Me too. Just going through the motions. He nodded and said nothing more. I bent into the driver's seat, closed the door, buckled up, and started the engine. In the rearview mirror, I caught him still standing there, motionless. His shadow was stretched long by the streetlight, looking almost lonely. I snapped my eyes forward and hit the gas. The car slid into the night traffic. 2 streets later, waiting at a red light, my taut nerves finally loosened a little. I touched my forehead and found a thin sheen of sweat. Why could I hear his thoughts? What kind of ridiculous supernatural event was this? Why him, of all people? Did this thing have a range limit? Would it keep going forever? 100 questions crowded my brain, tangled into a mess. But more unsettling than the unknown was the content of Liam's thoughts themselves. Beneath the irritable, critical, resentful, even fierce musings, what was hidden was memory still vivid, still unfaded, meticulous care, concern H never truly let go of. That was harder to handle than plain hatred or plain coldness. 7. It thought 3 years was enough to pack up the past and seal it away, press it into the deepest corner of memory and let it gather dust. But tonight, through the cracks his inner voice had pried open, the light and dust that leaked out burned. So what though? We had completely different lives now. However deep the past had been, it was still the past. The scars from those brutal fights, the cruelest things we'd said to each other, the exhausted decision to finally let go, none of it was fake. Besides, his whole elite vibe now, that cold mask, all of it reminded me we were no longer on the same path. I shook my head, tossing the tangled thoughts aside. The priority was figuring out what this mind-reading thing was. Maybe it was just a one-time thing tonight. Maybe I'd wake up tomorrow and it'd be gone. Yeah. Go home, hot shower, sleep. Tomorrow's a new day, and all of this would be back to normal. But things clearly weren't going the way I hoped. The next day was Sunday. I holed up at home, trying to numb myself with cleaning, binge watching, and takeout. The whole day was calm, no voices I shouldn't have been hearing. I was almost ready to believe last night had been some bizarre, absurd dream, or a brief psychotic episode, until evening. When I went downstairs to pick up takeout, it barely stepped out of my building when I spotted a vaguely familiar black SUV parked at the curb. Low-key model, but the price tag was anything but. My stomach dropped, almost simultaneously. The voice that had been gone for nearly 24 hours crashed back into my mind, crystal clear. Seriously? This is what she's eating for takeout? Spicy hot pot with iced Coke. Does she want to destroy her stomach? 8. I whipped my head around. The driver's window was halfway down. Liam had sunglasses on, the line of his jaw cold and hard. He wasn't looking at me, he was staring straight ahead, his fingers tapping the steering wheel idly, Looked like he was waiting for someone, or just parked for no reason. But his mind was clearly elsewhere. I stood there frozen, takeout bag in hand. After a few seconds I chose to ignore him, head down, and walked fast toward my building. What are you hiding from? Am I gonna eat you? Came downstairs in slippers, not even wearing socks. Hair's a mess. Definitely slept till afternoon. Dark circles so bad didn't sleep well last night. Was it because of me? That last line was quiet, uncertain, almost cautiously testing the waters. My steps faltered, my heart giving a strange little lurch. But quickly I gritted my teeth and charged into the building without looking back. The elevator doors closed, sealing off the outside world, and briefly, that annoying inner voice. Why was he here? Coincidence? Or on purpose? Over the next week, these coincidences started happening so often it was infuriating. Tuesday night, my best friend Sophia and I had dinner at a mall near my office. Afterward, we went down to the parking garage. The moment I reached my little white car, I spotted that black SUV in a spot diagonally across empty, but a thought drifted through my head. Parking around here is impossible. Of course she'd pick a place like this to eat. Wednesday lunch. I was in line at the coffee shop downstairs from my office, waiting for an Americano. Halfway through the line I felt someone step up behind me. I turned around. Liam was standing 2 people back, looking at his phone, a perfectly tailored suit. Totally out of place among the office workers on lunch break. He didn't look at me, but his mind was cursing. Iced Americano again? In the middle of the day? Would drinking something hot kill her? Who was it that used to curl up in agony from cramps? Never learns 9. I was going crazy. What was he trying to do? Stalk me? Surveil me? Friday night I finally couldn't take it anymore. After yet another inner comment about my new hair color looking like malnourished straw, I called an old mutual friend, Dave, Liam's former bandmate. The phone rang several times before he picked up. The background was loud, like a bar or a rehearsal space. Well, Miss Emma. Hell must be frozen over. What made you call me? Dave's voice was as booming as ever. I exchanged a couple of pleasantries and got straight to the point. Dave, have you seen Liam lately? A pause on the other end. The background noise seemed to die down a little. Like Dave had walked somewhere quieter. Liam? Yeah. Grabbed drinks with him last week. Why? Is he acting weird lately? I chose my words carefully. I mean, is his company about to go under? Or did something happen to him? He just seems, I gritted my teeth, kind of everywhere. With nothing better to do, Dave burst out laughing on the other end. His company's doing great. Just closed a big round of funding. From what I hear, going strong. Something happened to him. Who could get to him? He's Mr. Invincible these days. After laughing, his tone turned a little reflective. Though if you're asking if he's weird, maybe a little. Last week drinking, he clung to that bottle and wouldn't let go. Drunk, he kept asking over and over if all women are fickle and heartless. I asked if he missed you and he went quiet, face dark. I said Emma's probably forgotten all about you, and he almost flipped the table. Man, that temper. Same as ever. My heart skipped a beat. 10. Oh, and one more thing. Dave lowered his voice, excited to share gossip. No idea what's gotten into him lately, but he dragged that precious motorcycle of his out of the garage, the Harley he used to take you riding on, polished it over and over, put new parts on it. We all asked if he was making a comeback, reliving his rock and roll youth. He just shrugged it off. Weird. I hung up and sat on the couch, not moving for a long time. That black Harley, the one whose roar could shake an entire street. After the breakup, it assumed H sold it, or left it in some corner gathering dust. This, combined with what I'd seen and heard in his thoughts, it was starting to piece together into something different. Saturday, my mom called and tore into me right off the bat. What happened with that blind date? Aunt Margaret says Liam was perfectly happy with you. But you finished dinner and just walked out? No follow-up at all? Do you have any idea how sought after he is? My temples throbbed. Mom, we're not right for each other. We knew each other before. We know everything about each other. That makes it worse. Knew each other. All the better. My mom got more fired up, knowing everything is reliable. Way better than those deadbeats you dated before. I don't care. And Margaret said Liam has no objections. It's up to you. Think about it. No objections? H mentally torn me apart from head to toe. Plus a running commentary and stalking. But if he was really that dissatisfied, why agree to the blind date? Why keep running into me? Why? Was what he thought completely different from what he said? An absurd thought surfaced. Faint and hazy. 11. Could it be he regretted breaking up with me? Liam? Regret something? In my memory, he was proud, stubborn once he decided something. 10 oxen couldn't pull him back. He was the one had ended it. Granted, it was after a fight that left both of us bleeding. But his cold line, Emma. Let's stop here. I'm too tired. I remembered every word. I'd cried and slammed the door. And he hadn't come after me. For 3 years we'd been like parallel lines. No intersection. I'd thought that was the end of our story, messy, humiliating, but closed. I walked slowly down the dimly lit street, my mind a mess. Even if he regretted it, what then? 3 years of distance, different lives, the hurts we'd inflicted on each other, could any of it really be wiped clean? Could we go back? The answer was clearly no. The past was the past. Broken things, no matter how you pieced them together, still had cracks. But, somewhere in my chest, against all that unmaskable care, something was going soft and aching, out of my control. Feelings I'd thought were long dormant were like a still pool disturbed by a stone, rippling out in layer after layer. 12. Over the next few days, Liam stopped running into me. It was like H vanished. Even those annoying inner voices went quiet, which somehow made me even more restless. Sometimes, walking down the street, I'd find myself glancing around automatically. When my phone rang, my heart would skip. I hated feeling this pulled, but I couldn't control it. Wednesday afternoon, the company announced last minute that we needed a backup plan for a major project. The whole team had to work overtime. By 9 in the evening, we'd barely roughed out a draft. Colleagues left one by one. I stayed till the end because I was in charge of the final document. I closed my laptop and rubbed my sore neck, only then noticing it had started pouring outside, thunder and lightning. I stood behind the glass doors of the office lobby, watching the rain curtain down, splashing high off the pavement. Crap, I didn't have an umbrella. And at this hour the ride-share app had 100 people ahead of me. As I was stressing, my phone buzzed. A WeChat friend request. The profile picture was pure black. The verification message was 3 words. Liam Carter. My heart jumped. My finger hovered over the screen for a few seconds before I tapped accept. Almost the instant I accepted, his message came through, concise, location. I stared at those 2 words and hesitated. Then I thought about the rain outside, about how long I'd have to wait for a car. Finally, biting my lip, I replied with my office address. 20 minutes, he wrote back, no extra words. 18 minutes later, the black SUV broke through the rain and pulled up precisely at the office entrance. The passenger window rolled down. I didn't hesitate anymore. I opened the door and got in. The heater was on. It was dry inside, with a faint, familiar woody scent, the dry down of some obscure cologne H liked back in the day. Thanks, I said quietly, pulling on my seatbelt. My eyes were on the blurry street ahead, swept back and forth by the wipers. Liam made a soft sound and started the car. He wore a gray cashmere sweater, sleeves pushed to his elbows, his profile sharp in the dim interior light. He didn't look at me, focused on the road, his fingers on the wheel tapping a little too fast. The car glided smoothly into the rainy night traffic. The cabin was silent except for the patter of rain on the roof and windows, and the faint hum of the AC, too quiet. Quiet enough that I could hear my own heartbeat, a little too fast. Then that long absent voice, clearly irritable, invaded my mind again. Standing in the draft dress like that, of course she's gonna catch a cold. Familiar gruffness, with concern hidden underneath. Strangely, this time, hearing his thoughts didn't make me resist or get annoyed the way I had before. Instead, there was a weird kind of steadiness to it. 14. I couldn't help glancing quickly at him out of the corner of my eye. He was still looking straight ahead, brows slightly furrowed, lips pressed into a line. The line of his jaw tense, looked like do not disturb. I'm in a bad mood. But I knew his mind was ranting about me not having an umbrella, working late, dressing too light. That realization made a small corner of my heart quietly cave in. The car hit a red light and slowed to a stop. Outside, the rain showed no sign of letting up. Neon lights blurred into soft smudges on the wet pavement. Silence spread through the cabin, but this silence was different from the deliberately distant, awkward silence of the blind date night, different from the irritating silence when H been stalking me. This was a silence holding something back, something churning, temporarily pressed down. The car turned into my neighborhood and stopped below my building. The rain had lightened but was still falling steadily. We're here. He parked and turned off the engine, but he didn't unlock the doors. I unbuckled my seatbelt and said softly, thanks, I appreciate it. He didn't answer, didn't move. The car fell quiet again, only the occasional swish of the wipers across the glass. In the dim light, I could feel his gaze on me, heavy, warm, my fingers, resting on my lap, curled slightly. My heart started racing again, traitorously. Time to get out, I told myself, but my body felt nailed to the seat. Just as I took a deep breath and reached for the door handle, Emma, 3 years. The voice sounded in my head again. I whipped my head toward him. No, not his inner voice. I tried everything. I still can't forget you. His eyes, always hiding so much, now startlingly bright in the dark, reflected the broken light of the street lamp outside. The pain, the struggle, the helplessness churning in them, and a flicker of desperate, all in pleading, were almost overflowing. I suddenly remembered a long time ago, also on a rainy day, we'd been squeezed onto the narrow balcony of our rental, watching rain run down the rusted railing. H pressed my cold feet against his stomach and said, grinning, Emma, when I'm rich someday, I'll buy you a place with a big balcony. On rainy days we'll sit there, drink tea, watch the rain, and go nowhere later. It seemed he really was close to being able to afford a place like that, but somewhere along the way, we'd gotten lost. 15, time rusts. Memory scabs over. We both thought the wound had forgotten how to hurt really. We'd just gotten used to the dull ache, accepted it as part of life, until someone, reckless and desperate, insisted on tearing it open again, to show you the flesh inside that never healed, and the heart still burning hot. I took a deep breath. Cold air filled my lungs but couldn't cool the heat in my chest. I lifted my hand not for the door handle, but to gently touch the back of his hand on the steering wheel, the knuckles white from gripping it. His skin was cool under my fingertips, but the moment we touched, it was like an electric current passing through. We both shivered slightly. He turned his head sharply, eyes wide with disbelief, and a flicker of cautious, fragile hope. Outside, the rain pattered on. Inside, silence, only the fine drumming of rain on the roof, and my own heart pounding like a drum. Liam turned his hand and wrapped his fingers around mine tight, even trembling a little, like he was afraid that if he let go, everything in front of him would evaporate like mist. His palm was warm, slightly calloused, a familiar touch I hadn't felt in so long. It made my nose sting. I let him hold it, didn't pull away. My vision blurred a little. I couldn't tell if it was the fog on the windows or the heat rising behind my eyes. She touched me. She didn't pull away. Is this real? Or am I drunk and dreaming again? His inner voice was incoherent, full of ecstatic disbelief and anxious uncertainty, totally at odds with the way he was pressing his lips tight, fighting to keep his composure. That huge contrast made my heart ache, then go soft. Liam. I finally found my voice, with a dependence and a trace of hurt I hadn't realized was there. What you just said, did you mean it? The second the words left my mouth, I regretted them. I could hear his thoughts. Why ask? But I wanted to hear him say it out loud. I wanted to watch him admit it with my own eyes, not through that annoying, miraculous ability. He took a deep breath, his Adam's apple moving hard, his grip on my fingers tightening. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he turned to face me, meeting my eyes. What do you think? Does a guy who, on a blind date, sits across from you dressed like you're heading to a board meeting while his head is full of you running around without socks, getting ice cream on your face, drooling in your sleep, does that sound like a guy who doesn't mean it? Those trivial, everyday details I'd thought were long gone came flooding back, vivid and warm, hitting me so hard my eyes burned. Then why? My voice caught. I steadied myself. Why did you break up with me? Why didn't you look for me for 3 whole years? 16. That was the deepest thorn between us. The pain and confusion had turned over and over on countless sleepless nights. Liam's eyes darkened, a flash of clear pain crossing them. He let go of my hand and ran his palm hard over his face, the gesture heavy with exhaustion. No longer the all-powerful, sharp, shrewd Mr. Carter. He was the Liam of old again, the one who'd get anxious over a melody, push himself to the brink for a show, and fumble and get lost in love. Because back then, I was an asshole. He gave a self-deprecating laugh, the curve of his mouth bitter, and a coward. He turned to look out the window at the lights, fragmented by the rain, and spoke slowly. The band broke up. I couldn't write songs, couldn't see a future, couldn't even scrape together next month's rent. You were with me, crammed into that rental that leaked in summer and let the wind in winter, coming home late from overtime to cook me noodles, walking several stops to save a few bucks on the bus. I watched the light in your eyes dim a little more each day, watched you go quieter and quieter. It tore me up inside. I thought I was holding you back, Emma. I thought if you left me, You'd have a better life. At least you wouldn't have to worry about making rent. Wouldn't have to waste your time on a poor kid with no future. That fight, I said awful things. You slammed the door and left. I wanted to chase you, but I was afraid if I did, and saw you crying, I'd never be able to harden my heart enough to let you go. I told myself, when I made something of myself, when I could at least give you a stable life if I still had a chance. But 3 years is too long. I worked like crazy every day, built the company, bought a car, bought a place, but every time I stopped, my chest felt hollow. I heard you were doing well, work going smoothly, seemed like you'd moved on. I didn't dare reach out, afraid of bothering you, more afraid of hearing you say, with your own mouth, that you didn't need me anymore. He turned back to me, red veins in his eyes. Until Aunt Margaret came to my mom and said the blind date was you. I practically jumped at it. Even just seeing you from far away, even if you were cold to me, I felt a little more alive, Emma. He leaned in, his breath brushing my cheek cool, with coffee and rain, his eyes burning. Every single day of these 3 years, I've regretted it. Regretted not holding you back. Regretted not getting strong sooner. Regretted not clinging to you like an idiot when you needed me. I know the past can't just be erased. The hurt I caused you is real. I've changed too. I'm not just the poor kid who played guitar and wrote songs anymore. But he trailed off, searching for the right words, or maybe waiting for my reaction. But my mind was already flooded by the torrent of his inner voice. Say it, Liam. Tell her everything you're thinking. Tell her you kept all the clothes she left behind in the back of the closet. Tell her your phone passcode is still her birthday. Tell her you fixed the motorcycle because you dreamed she was on the back again, arms around your waist, laughing. Tell her, you asshole, you never stopped loving her, not once. Those thoughts were more direct, more overwhelming than what H said out loud, and more moving. All the doubt, the hurt, the resentment facing this raw, honest confession. They melted away little by little. In their place was an aching, swollen emotion that almost brought tears. So it turned out these 3 years, I hadn't been the only one drifting in memory. 17? But I finally found my voice, thick with a stuffy nose, cutting him off. But why can't your mouth learn from your heart? Do you have to be so stubborn? He blinked. I lifted my hand and with my fingertip gently touched the furrow between his brows, a gesture so familiar it was as if we'd never been apart. That day at the coffee shop downstairs from my office, you were mentally cursing me for drinking iced Americano. Couldn't your mouth just say, have something warm? Below my building, you were mentally muttering that I was dressed to light. Couldn't you just send me a text telling me to put on a jacket? Liam's pupils dilated slightly, then a flush flustered, mixed with shock and dawning realization crept up his ears. H clearly just put it together, you. His Adam's apple moved. His eyes were full of incredulous curiosity. How did you? I don't know. I cut him off quickly, looking away at the rain slowing outside the window. Just a guess, after all, Mr. Carter, your thoughts can be pretty easy to read sometimes. I couldn't tell him I could hear his inner voice. At least, not now. It was too bizarre, and I wasn't ready to give up that trump card. Let it stay a sweet, annoying secret. He went quiet, just looking at me deeply. After a while he let out a low, helpless laugh. There was relief in it, and a resigned kind of fondness. Okay, I'll work on it. His tone was more earnest and yielding than I'd ever heard. From now on, whatever I'm thinking, I'll try to say it out loud. Ms. Emma, you can supervise me, deal? That familiar, slightly roguish, coaxing tone shattered my last line of defense. My nose stung and the tears I'd been holding finally spilled over. He panicked immediately, fumbling for tissues, carefully dabbing my face, clumsy and gentle, murmuring under his breath, don't cry, it's my fault. I said the wrong thing again. Please don't cry. Watching him like that, I burst out laughing through the tears, crying and laughing at once, like an idiot. 18, outside, the rain had stopped without my noticing. The clouds had parted, revealing a night sky washed exceptionally clear by the rain, and a few scattered stars. He wiped my tears, his fingers lingering on my cheek, his thumb stroked my skin gently, his gaze as deep as the night sky above. Emma, he asked softly, cautious and hopeful, can we start over? Let me make up for everything I didn't do right before? Can I? I didn't answer right away. I just looked at him, the stubborn, soft-hearted, difficult Liam. Time may have changed our exteriors, but something inside seemed never to have changed at all. I took the hand resting on my cheek and nodded gently. Yeah. My voice was soft, but to his ears it must have weighed 1,000 pounds. His eyes lit up instantly, as if H gathered all the starlight into them. Then, slowly, with extraordinary care, he leaned in and pressed a kiss as light as a feather to my forehead. No more words. But I knew this time we wouldn't lose each other so easily again. As for that annoying mind-reading ability, I secretly curved my lips into a smile. Maybe the reason it appeared was so I could hear. Beneath that silent iceberg, the eruption of a volcano that had never gone cold. Hey there, could you rate this story in the comments? Use a scale of 1 to 10. Please, I'm begging you. It really means a lot to me, and if you like this kind of content, don't forget to hit follow.